This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. Do you need permission to get through your day? We all need a little permission. But if you sacrificed your entire soul, your entire ethos to permission, do you beg every day of your life some for approval? Is that your walk? Is that the walk that you do every day? I want to use two great examples, at least two great examples to me today to illustrate. Number one, my nephew. My nephew just finished his 12-year-old baseball season in Little League. Look, I'm the uncle. Someone's always going to say you've got a biased opinion. Of course, that's the way the world works. But my nephew's been a football player for quite a while now, 5-6 years. And the videos of him racing up and down the field, beating everybody in 80-yard sprints are quite impressive. The kid's a great athlete. Now, whether that pans out in the future, who the hell knows? But he just finished his 12-year-old baseball season. And apparently he did not make the all-star team, even though he had stats that dwarfed other kids and had the physical skills that were much stronger than other kids. Hey, that's the way it goes. It's a political system. It's always a political system. So that's the first one that I want to talk about. Number two, this new TV show, Billions, on Showtime. I had never seen it. Ryan Holiday had mentioned it to me. Jerry Parker had mentioned it to me. I watched it. I sat down and I literally watched all 12 to 14 episodes. They're about an hour long. The story is about this hedge fund manager, Bobby Axelrod, and he's pitted against this guy, Charles Rhodes, who's the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. So basically, you have the hedge fund manager competing against the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Both of these examples are all about permission. And both of these examples, for me, to hear these stories, I heard the story of my nephew, which I'm going to talk about in a second, and translate to my own situation, and to watch this TV show, Billions. The through lines, the motivational through lines, if you're looking closely, are just fantastic. On Little League, every parent out there knows that Little League across the country is the most corrupt political nonsense there could ever be. Literally, hundreds of parents across America become coaches in Little League just so their non-athletic child that has no skills can be carried along, can be given the trophy, can be given permission, can be told that you're wonderful. Now, on the field, that kid might suck. But when you have parents engineering little kids like they're chess pieces, well, we all know how that goes down. It's not pretty. And as I mentioned with my nephew, and that's just one example, I'm sure everyone knows some kid out there that got screwed over by the system. I would argue that being screwed over by the system at a young age is fantastic. Because I was one of those kids. I was the kid that was nobody my last year of Little League, but then the all-star catcher as a 13-year-old, and went on to play throughout high school and into my first year in college. I basically walked away because I knew I was not going to be Bryce Harper. And everyone has to have that realization. But I gave it a good shot. But I still think back to that early time. And here I am listening to a story from my sister complain about the system. And her son's a good athlete. If he really wants to play baseball, he's going to recover. He's going to push. He's going to strive. If he wants to quit, he'll freaking quit. But in my situation, I took it as like, okay, you don't believe in me? You don't believe in me? I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to practice my ass off to beat you. That always drove me. every damn step of the way. I remember even after not having any success in Little League or a little success, and then getting some success as a 13-year-old kid on the big field, I then went out for my high school team, cut my freshman year. They said, you're not good enough. They put a bunch of guys on the team that were football players the coaches knew. Hell, in the local leagues, everyone knew those guys weren't any good, but they put them on the team anyways. I went back out my sophomore year, ended up being the MVP of the team, and was the only sophomore called up to play varsity that year. But that's just because I got pissed off at the system. And I think being a little ticked off to see that politics early, I look back now, that shaped me. The struggle inside baseball shaped me. When I saw adults using small children as chessboard pieces, as nepotism on the playing field, while I did not know at the time that would become real life, or that was exemplifying real life, it sure as hell indeed was real life. And every time you face those types of obstacles, you have to smash through them if you want any form of success. So when I listen to my sister complain about the system, I say, it's over. Your son got screwed. But while your son just got screwed and wasn't picked to be an all-star, within 1 week, he was selected to be on the traveling team. So you see, there are people out there that see merit. And again, I'm not just sitting here trying to tout my nephew, but I'm pointing out that if you keep it on the field and you make it about merit and you don't get bogged down in seeking permission and you just keep striving, someone is going to see your effort. Someone is going to see your excellence. They're going to see your skill. They're going to want to work with you. They're going to want to play with you. They're going to want to be with you. Now, on the other hand, if you are one of those sad sack kids that sucked in Little League, and guess what? If you're a 12-year-old kid, and maybe some of you listening right now are those 12-year-old kids that actually sucked in Little League, if you are that 12-year-old kid, or if you were that 12-year-old kid that sucked and daddy moved you along and you didn't really have the merit on the field, I'll bet you, if you're honest with yourself while you're sitting with your shrink, because you probably had to have a shrink, I'll bet if you're honest with yourself, you know it didn't help you. It didn't help you to be the Richie Rich kid. It didn't help you to not have to struggle. I love playing sports for that reason. Sure, we all dream of professional sports, and we see those big contracts, and we see the guaranteed money, especially in baseball. Again, if you're a parent out there and your kid's playing football versus baseball, stop the football and go to baseball. That's where the guaranteed money is. And wait till we all see the contract that a Bryce Harper signs in the years to come. But I think this type of attitude starts young. And I think back to my recent conversation with Anders Ericsson, who wrote the book Peak. And if you've not listened to that podcast episode, I highly recommend going back and listening to Anders talk about peak performance, practice. And guess what? This starts early. In my sister's world, one of her friends came onto a thread and said, hey, why are you pushing so much? It's the summer. Go have fun. These are 12-year-old boys. They don't even have hair on their body yet. Why are you pushing so hard? Man, if some mother would have told me that nonsense as a 12-year-old, I wouldn't have hit her. That would not be a nice thing to do. I would not have cussed her out. That would not have been nice either. But behind the scenes, I sure as hell would have thought that lady is a loser. Because every damn achiever starts early. If you want to have your kid go pick posies, or if your kid likes to pick posies, let him go pick posies. But don't tell the kid that wants to strive, don't tell the kid that wants to kick ass, that he has to sit on his hands and deal with this kind of kumbaya, fair system where everyone's treated equally. The kid that works the hardest loves merit. The kid that works the hardest wants to be rewarded for all of his excellence at practice. And those are the people that we all know. Maybe we don't want to be around them all the time. And maybe as we get older, we want to be around the artistic pick posy type some. But damn it, when you want to get something done, You want to be around that kid that was pushing hard at 7 years old, at 8 years old, at 9 years old, because that kid, if he keeps it up, if he keeps those good habits up and understands why those good habits that he or she had at a young age, if they understand why it's so important and stick with it, they're going to have a leg up and it's going to be a much better life. And back to my original point, they probably won't be having to seek permission their entire life. They will probably blaze their own trail. They'll carve their own path. And this leads me into the TV show Billions. On Showtime, came out early this year, can easily be found on iTunes. That's where I watched it. I mentioned the setup. This guy, Bobby Axelrod, the hedge fund manager, Paul Giamatti playing Chuck Rhodes. This guy, Giamatti, I'm telling you, he makes you want to watch the show. Look, it's an entertaining show. It really is entertaining. I really enjoyed watching it, and I recommend you watching it as well. Now that I've said the nice things, and now that I have told you to go out and purchase this show, Billions, and watch it, because it's a good show, hopefully nobody will criticize me now that I'm going to nail a few things in this show. Because there are many things in this show, while it's extremely well done and it's entertaining to watch, and it's about Wall Street in 2016. But it's about a Wall Street in 2016 where many things have been left out of the equation, left off the script, nowhere to be seen. First, let me describe this main character, Bobby Axelrod. He is master of the universe, hedge fund manager, probably has a staff of 100. Beautiful office in Westport, Connecticut. And for those of you that don't know, Southern Connecticut, Greenwich, Westport, Stamford, this is where the New York City-based hedge funds plant. This is where they go. This is where they exist. And so he is master of the universe running this fund. What's his strategy? His strategy is to be the guy that opens up each day standing in a conference room with 20, 30 people at the table shouting ideas at him. So the entire show in 2016, and this show happens to have been co-written by Andrew Ross Sorkin, who would be the young guy who appears on the morning show on CNBC with Joe Kernan almost every day. So we know this show was written and composed by CNBC. So it's not going to surprise you that CNBC is not mentioned. It's not going to surprise you, really, that media is not mentioned. Before I get into that, let me continue to describe this hedge fund manager and his style. He wakes up each day, everyone throws basically picks at him. It's an all fundamental shop. All they're trying to do with this shop is get inside information to make money either on the long side or the short side. A lot of the inside information they're getting is illegally based. Hence, the reason that the Paul Giamatti character, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, the reason he's after this guy. So it's this cat and mouse game. In real life, the Paul Giamatti character, probably based on Elliot Spitzer. In real life, the Damian Lewis character playing Bobby Axelrod, probably based on Steve Cohen. These are just guesses. Everyone will have to come to their own conclusion on who these characters are based on. I think they're probably composites as well, but those composites are probably highly composed of the two people that I just mentioned. So here we are in 2016, and a CNBC writer is basically telling the world this is how it works. That everything is still based on inside information, stock picks, pump and dump, and all kinds of behind the scenes bullshit. He's positioning Wall Street as that. And you can guarantee that many, many people who see this show, because this show is very well done, and there are many, many things in this show that are highly accurate. But to go ahead and leave out, and of course, this is for entertainment, but sometimes the best entertainment is very close to the truth. But if you're going to put the truth out there, and I've watched the whole season, if you're going to put the truth out there and you're only going to fixate on one character who happens to be a guy who's basically using inside information to manipulate stock positions, well, we're leaving a lot out of the equation, and we're leaving the average person with the idea that this is what Wall Street is today. You have to be this guy, Bobby Axelrod, to compete. Or if you're going to compete, you're up against Bobby Axelrod. Nothing could be farther from the truth. If you want to compete against the real life Bobby Axelrod or the fake Bobby Axelrod, you don't have to even know who they are. Because if you come at trading from a quant perspective, all of the things, all of the information flow, the inside information, everything they talk about in this show, Billions, is irrelevant to you. It's not part of the game. Where are the trend following traders in Billions? Where are the quant traders? Well, that stuff's not sexy. Inside information is sexy. A U.S. attorney chasing you down, trying to find out how you're getting your illegal inside information. That's sexy. Basing a character off, perhaps Elliot Spitzer, a guy who has some sexual issues. So now we also have this U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, has got all kinds of S&M problems, which may or may not be real life. It's really a fun show. It's shot very well. The writing's pretty tight. But they leave a lot out. They leave the quant out. They make Wall Street only seem like it's inside information. And getting back to the media, should it surprise you that if a show is composed by a guy who sits at the feet of CNBC every day, should it surprise you that this show almost leaves the media out? Oh, sure, there's a mythological reporter who's trying to track down information and all this other kind of stuff. But in terms of positioning the media for what they are, how complicit they are in the game. Because if there are these hedge fund managers, these inside information guys, do we really think the media is not involved in the game? Look, in this show, Billions, everyone's being paid off. Everyone's getting something under the table. Everything feels dirty, but the media is left out. So if this show is based on the truth, and I have a feeling they have done their homework, they've done their research, and there is a lot of truth in this show, then where the hell is the truth about the media? Do you really want me to believe that when I turn on CNBC or I turn on Bloomberg, do you really want me to believe that none of those reporters have been paid off? If everybody else is being paid off, and again, if they've done their research and these writers have done their research, I'm sure they have found real life examples to fictionalize. And most likely, everything they've put in there is probably grounded in truth in some way or another, but they've left out the media. I think back to my first exposure, my first big exposure with financial media and seeing how it really worked. And I've talked about this in my podcast before. But a scheduled interview with Maria Bartiromo years back for my film, she canceled at the last minute, all set up, studio set up, and she left me a voicemail explaining why she was canceling, even though it had been pre-approved by all the CNBC brass. And her voicemail said, I can't do this open-ended because of the dot-com bubble. And, analysts were saying this and saying that. And it was such a behind-the-scenes insight into the thinking of one of the teleprompter reading media financial heads. And so when I see this great show, Billions, and I challenge the writers in their second season, I challenge you to bring in the media. If you're going to rip everybody on Wall Street, bring the media in and rip them too. If you're going to talk about a hedge fund style on Wall Street, at least explain as well that not all hedge fund styles are illegal scams. Explain that there are indeed some true masters of the universe with skill, with technique that anyone can use. And give them some praise too. Don't just make it hating on the rich guy, because there are some rich people out there, some super rich people out there that deserve our respect because of their hard work, what they've figured out, their skill, their effort, their tenacity. They should be saluted and not condemned. I want to bring this back to permission, though. The permission that one sees in Little League Baseball is the same permission they put on the screen for this TV show Billions. This is one backstabbing arena. Current day Wall Street in 2016. If the show Billions is accurate in any way, shape, or form. Friends are backstabbing each other. Family are backstabbing each other. The government is crooked. Hedge funds are crooked. Coworkers are trying to destroy each other. And the entire system is held together with an incentive to not do the right thing because you're making money. So you end up at the highest reaches of performance, whether that's in government or hedge funds. The highest reaches of performance have people that are only there because they say yes, sir, to an asshole. It's more important to them to have the money and have no life. It's more important to them to have the money and kiss the feet of the king. And if Billions does anything extremely well, it's describe current day New York City, perhaps current day America, and the extent to which people will go to try and get money and power. And it starts with permission. Because people just follow these systems. They follow the same old systems. Go to this school. Start at this job. Work your way up this ladder. Even though you're going to be backstabbed the entire way. And people sit there and go their whole life through that. Billions does a fantastic job of showing that uber competitiveness across current day Wall Street, New York City, hedge funds, government. All of these people in their own bubble competing with each other. They all know each other. They know each other's kids, but they literally have no problem killing each other. It's a sad existence. And to continue to weave in permission in a way that you can perhaps lead a life that doesn't require you to be like a character in Billions. It leads me back to one of my biggest influences, to see how the trend following space has been organized over the last 50 years. And truly individuals, Howard Work type individuals, blazing their trail, not needing the inside information, avoiding that type of trading, and sticking to this price-based, honest way of trading. Now, you might think that sounds funny to call trend following an honest way of trading. What else is it? If someone sits down at their computer and they have 10,000, 100,000, a million, or 100 million, if they sit down at their computer and they don't need the New York City establishment, they don't need the Wall Street system to make money, they don't need any inside information. If they sit down at their computer and they can say, with my limited capital, and again, 10,000 or 100 million, it's still limited capital. No one has unlimited. But if you can sit down and you can trade, you can make a buy decision, you can make a sell decision, and over time make money and not have to seek permission from all those characters in the TV show Billions. How fulfilling is that? Look, this is more than just making money. This is leading a life too. And the life that I see in the TV show Billions, you couldn't pay me to lead that life. Sadly, I will guarantee you, many, many people, perhaps a majority, perhaps a significant majority, would indeed take the lives of those characters in Billions, they would jump into their shoes because they will think that it looks sexy. They will think that's where they want to be. It's not. Did I say I'm a fan of the TV show Billions? Yeah, it's a great show. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. I can't wait for season 2. What about my criticisms? What about them? Am I wrong? Go watch the show. Tell me, am I wrong? I want to wrap my thoughts up today with a final quote from the esteemed philosopher, the poet extraordinaire, Ron Burgundy. And Ron said in Anchorman 2, quote, "Why do we have to tell them what they need to hear? Why can't we tell them what they want to hear?" End quote. And that is probably the reason, even though I've had my fair share of pretty damn good success, it's probably the reason I didn't have more. Because I'm not very good. In fact, I'm terrible at telling people what they want to hear. I love telling people what they need to hear. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.